Hi guys! I am going live pretty late, so I've had quite a day. Hold on, let me fix myself, I guess. And also, let me share my live on my pages, my business pages. If you're just coming on, please say hi, tell me where you're from. Hello, hello. All right, all shared, all ready to go. I wanted to talk about codependency today because it's on my mind. And I think a lot of people are not very clear as to what it is, so I'll go ahead and hi Lisa from New Hampshire. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. So I will go ahead and tell you, if you think you may be codependent, some signs to watch out for, or ideals that you may have that may match the mind of a codependent. So we can kind of go through that. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Justine Luzzi. I am a intuitive coach, spiritual advisor. I really help people heal themselves, empower their intuition to live a more aligned life, and really get spiritually connected in a way that feels good to them. So I do a lot of things, guys. So, hi! Thanks for joining, guys. All right, let's talk codependency. And, again, I'm sorry I'm going live, kind of late today. I'm just kind of all out of whack with my sleep schedule. I've been having some issues with that, so thanks for being patient with me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about codependency. And basically, for me, and I made a lot of notes, so that's why I'll be kind of looking over, but for me, codependency is this definition. It's an unhealthy attachment to anything outside of our higher self, right? And I talk about higher self a lot. I don't like to just say self, because self can be really, the word I'm looking for is subjective. So when I'm talking of the higher self, it's your true self. It's the truth of who you are. It's something bigger than yourself. Who you truly, truly are, absent of the ego. So that's what I mean by higher self. So when I say an unhealthy attachment to anything outside of your higher self is where love exists. So anything that is outside of that is, like they say, not real, right? Because love is the only thing that's real. Anything that's ego or fear-based is not. It is false. So, hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a lot, but that's really a basic principle. Love is the only thing that's real. Fear and ego are the exact opposite. They're illusions of our mind, created by our ego and created by fear. So, backing up to codependency, I think a lot of times people think, because I think psychologically people say that codependency is something you develop from a parent relationship that was very codependent, or children of alcoholics, for example, or with any type of drug addiction, then you can create a codependent child. I'm not a psychologist, so that is, and if anybody's on here that is, I believe that is the way, the definition for them about a codependent. But for me, what I have found is that codependent can really come from any unhealthy attachment, and that it's usually created from the space of we're not good enough, right? And I get this a lot from my clients about, asking why we're not good enough and why we feel like we're not good enough. And the only thing that I can come up with, and I've meditated on this a lot because I too have had feelings of not feeling good enough, and it's very, very common. And the only thing that I can come up with, and what I continuously get, is that our ego creates our ego is created essentially for self-sabotaging, right? Because I'll go into this another day, but the ego can be our friend, but most of the time it's a series of survival mechanisms, right? Like, so we're being told we're not good enough, so we don't play big, right? And it keeps us small, and it keeps us safe, and it keeps us in our comfort zone, and that's where we should be, right? That's exactly where the ego wants us to be, right? So this is all created by an ego, which is, like I said, created in fear, right? So it's actually not from love, and that's why codependency is on the negative scale, right? Because it's actually something that's created as a fear-based, right? Thanks, Glenn. So, a lot of people are like, well, what does codependent mean? Like, well, how can you spot if you're a codependent, and et cetera, et cetera. And I've come up with these things, I listed them over here, about, I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other codependent people. If you have any of these qualities, you may be codependent. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into them. And if you relate, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know as well. So remember, guys, this is supposed to be interactive. I'm not feeling the best right now. I have a little bit of a headache, so I would love if you guys could just, interact. I'd love to hear what you have to say, or if you agree or you disagree, or, any of that stuff. So, number one, you may be codependent if you're waiting for someone to save you, right? How many times... I can raise my hand on this one. We're waiting for somebody to save us from this life, right? We're actually when we're waiting for someone to save us, we're actually in victim mode, right? We're not realizing that we're the creator of our own lives, and that we can actually make things happen. We can design, we can orchestrate exactly how we want our life to be. And a lot of people don't understand that, but it's really, it's really important to understand that, because, we can have anything we want, right? Anything we truly desire, we can actually have, because we wouldn't have the desire if it wasn't attainable, because it doesn't make any sense. It's not just there to be there, right? It's there for a purpose. And I'm talking desires here. So, by waiting around for things to change without taking any action, or really figuring out, intuitively what you actually want, what kind of life that you want, instead of waiting for, a husband to save you. I know I was there, right? I said, okay, once I can get into a relationship, my life is, and once I get married, my life starts. Absolutely not. That is so false. And I'm laughing now because it's absolutely ridiculous to think about that. And, I work with divorcing women, and this is very applicable to many of them, unfortunately. Totally. And I think, and I'm going to get into codependency in relationships a little later, but so true, because codependency for me made me, I realized I was codependent when I came out of a very toxic relationship, right? And I realized, I'm like, wow, my thoughts and the way that I believe the world should be, and the way that I'm thinking or loving, is really a codependent, or acting, right? My behaviors are really in a codependent place. So that's really, really good. Thank you for bringing that up, Lisa. Okay, so the second thing, you may be codependent if you're looking for approval outside of yourself. Me, right? I am a recovering codependent, meaning that it's something that you have to work on constantly, but definitely have looked outside of myself for approval from other people so people can tell me if I'm good enough, or if I'm worth it, or if I'm funny, or if I'm pretty, or, that type of thing. Really it comes down to, with this, I think, is a lack of self-love, not accessing that part of yourself, which I didn't when I was a codependent. I did wait for outside circumstances to kind of tell me who I was, right? And I was actually very notorious. You can ask the people I hung out with in my 20s, my drinking buds. You can ask them how many times I asked them what I should be doing, or, do I look good? Are you trying to look stupid? Like, asking for approval outside of myself, waiting for them to say, yes, Justine, here's what you want to hear, yes. And, I took that to heart, right? And what's the problem with that, right? Once we have attachment and that goes away, right? Somebody tells us that we're ugly, everything comes shattering down like a house of cards. And that's the point, right? That's the point of attachment, right? And this goes back to Buddhism, is that's the suffering, right? That's the suffering. Because when we no longer care about what people actually think about us, that's true emotional freedom, let me tell you. Feels good. So, hopefully this resonates with some people. Next, you may be codependent if you're waiting for someone to tell you you're enough. It kind of goes with looking for approval. And it kind of goes what I was saying before about it's a really scary place to be psychologically. Totally, Lisa. And that goes back to what I was saying about, the ego telling us that we're not enough so we can play small and keep us in our comfort zone. Next thing, you may be codependent if you're making other people's happiness your priority. Think about this, guys. So, I'm about to get a little controversial, but that's okay, because I'm a free thinker. I am independent of thought and independent of feelings. So I have my own feelings and my own thoughts. If you don't agree with them, totally fine. You don't have to follow me. You don't have to agree with me. And if you disagree with me, that's totally cool too. We're here to have different opinions and feelings and all of that. But I see a lot of codependency happening in families. And what I mean by this is that there seems to be, and maybe from my own experience, is that there seems to be this groupthink. And if you ever took a psychology course, groupthink is like a large group, not independently thinking, but codependently thinking the same thing or feeling the same thing, which I think is extremely unhealthy, because I think the one of the benefits of being a conscious person and being self-aware is being able to have your own feelings and your own thoughts. And we all do. We're all individuals. What works for one person may not work for another, and that is so true. You have to understand that's why intuition, my favorite topic, favorite thing to talk about, because I believe it's Queen Bee. I'm using my hands a lot today. But I believe it's the one true savior for us, right? As far as when it comes to being aligned with who you really are. So it's important to speak your mind, feel your feelings, communicate your feelings, and that type of thing. So if you are waiting for your parents' approval, or you're constantly doing things to make your parents happy, or your sister happy, or your brother happy, or, whatever it is, that will set you up for not only codependency, which it is. Intuition is a great topic. I love it too. Yay! I love it. I could talk about it all day. But you're setting yourself up for some major, major suffering, because once first of all, spending time making somebody happy is going to take a lot of time and energy, which is our two most important resources. And we can exhaust those resources, and you know how they say, don't pour from an empty cup, right? Especially if you're empathic. Especially, it is so important to fill your own cup before helping somebody else out. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make somebody happy. When I'm in a relationship, I want to, maybe do the dishes so my significant other would be happy, right? That's completely different. That's great. That's an added bonus. But continually striving to get the approval and to make sure that they're happy, and doing it in a way that exhausts you in a negative way, that's codependency. And it's important to see the difference. So, okay, and next one, hopefully, I got a like, yay, okay, so people do agree. And you just look closely. If you're conscious of this of codependency, you'll start to see it everywhere, right? So be conscious of where you see codependency in your life, and you will notice, I promise you see it in a lot of families. A lot of families that are very, very close. They don't have real independent relationships outside of themselves. It's kind of a scary groupthink situation. It's the modern day groupthink, I think. So just be very, very aware of that. Okay, next one. You may be codependent if you're waiting for someone to give you your dream life. Okay. So, if you've noticed, this is the third thing that I said, waiting, right? We're waiting for someone to give you your dream life, waiting for someone to tell you you're enough, waiting for someone to save you. It's a lot of waiting around, codependency, right? And when you think of it like that, it falls into the negative scale on the spectrum, because we're not actively doing anything to create our life. And creativity lands on the positive scale. It goes under love instead of fear and ego. So we're actually, again, finding ourselves in victim mode. and we're waiting for someone to give us that dream life. Only if I had that relationship that would give me the dream life. Only if I had that, right? I know I use relationships a lot, and I'll get into it in a second. But it becomes very apparent in a toxic relationship whether you're codependent or not, trust me. Any real relationship, honestly, if you think about it. So, I just love this topic, guys, right? It's supposed to be, I know this is a serious subject, and I'm laughing through it because, I've recently learned that, laughing is healing. So I really believe that. For a really long time, I didn't laugh at all, to be completely honest with you guys. So I'm just trying to make this, not fun, definitely informational, but I want to convey it in a way that doesn't seem so heavy for you guys, because I know a lot of these areas are really touchy, and if you're sensitive like I am, I'm very touchy about a lot of things, so just trying to make it in a way where it feels a little bit light, right, going towards the light. So all of these things are falling into victim mode, which lands in the ego fear department, and we're waiting for someone to save us, essentially, from not having the life we want, when in reality, like I said earlier, we are the creators. We can do anything that we actually desire. So it's very valuable and important for people to hear. Thank you, Lisa. I agree. I think it's very valuable. And the last thing... you're codependent when you find yourself in continuous toxic relationships. So for me, I believe everybody, if you've been following me, you know about my narcissistic abusive relationship. But also I had a relationship years ago where I was very, very codependent, and it was very, very unhealthy. We were not inseparable. And it was just when we broke it off, I don't even know, he broke it off maybe, or me, I don't even remember, but it was very much like my life had ended. And I could see people recovering from relationships so flawlessly, and I didn't really understand why, right? And not to say that any breakup is flawless, that's not what I mean at all. Everything is tough, and I'm not here to say mine was worse or anything like that, but I'm pretty much saying it's very, very, very hard to recover from a breakup when the breakup is your life, when the relationship is your life. Excuse me. So let me repeat that. Toxic relationships, a biggie, narcs are everywhere, camouflage this nice guys. Yes. I need to do a live about how to spot a narcissist, like qualities. I think that's a really good live. Thanks, Lisa. Cool. I'll do one on that. So I believe that, okay, I'll repeat, sorry, I got a little distracted. I will repeat what I said. It's very, very hard to recover from a breakup when the relationship was your whole life. That's what I meant to say. And it's so true, and it's actually happened to me quite a few times, which I didn't get the memo of the codependency until my narcissistic relationship, and I'm glad that I did get the memo. It was a very, very, very big wake-up call for me to realize that not everybody feels like the end of the world, and it's actually pretty healthy to feel like it's not the end of the world when you break up with someone, because truly it's not. All relationships, and I think this is really, really important to understand, all relationships are added bonuses, right? It's a part of being human. We get to love people. We get to have sex with people, be intimate with people. We get to have friendships. We get to have fun with these friends. These are all added bonuses that if you're lucky, I'm sorry, I don't like using the word lucky, if you're blessed in your life, and you will have those things. You will experience those things. That's a human thing, right? It's not something that is that we're entitled to. It's not. It's a privilege to have all of these things. But it's not needed. Not that it's not needed. I'm sorry. It's not dependent, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's not dependent on your happiness. That's the key. And that's the whole point, right? That's where the word comes from in codependency, right? It's not that we're dependent on anything outside of ourselves. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? I feel like I kind of confused it a little bit, but that's the whole thing. So, you can be independent and be in a relationship. This is something I never thought was possible from my background, and I'm so grateful for spirituality and helping me realize that it is possible to do it. And, you know, once I started surrounding myself around women that were having independent thought outside of their relationships, that really solidified it for me. I have a ton of friends, and I'm so blessed that are in really, really healthy relationships, not codependent at all, and it's really, really a blessing for me, and, you know, I just love it so much, and I'm very, very grateful that I have that. And it's funny because a lot of people, I joke with a lot of people saying I love being the third wheel, but I really only love being the third wheel with really healthy relationships, and I love being around people that understand that, and love is the most beautiful thing in the world, guys. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. We got to get in that mood. It is really very beautiful when there are two people that could share a life together, but also have independent selves, and be really connected to their higher selves, and have their own feelings, thoughts, those type of things. So it's really, really a beautiful thing. And I think it's possible for everyone. So if I named all of these things, you know, you may be a codependent if you kind of fall into these categories and these things pretty much resonate with you, please don't be discouraged. Please don't beat yourself up. Like, nothing good happens with tearing ourselves apart. Like, oh my God, you're so stupid. You're so codependent. Happy Valentine's Day to you too, love. Please don't beat yourself up. If I can tell you anything, you can, and anything that I know that is true, is that change is possible with all of the healing and self-improvement that you can take. And as long as, here's half the battle. Do you want to know what half the battle is? And I talk about this a lot. Half the battle is actually being conscious of it. So if you recognize yourself in some of these things, that's half the battle. Now the other half is just recovering from your codependency. That's it. And I know I'm saying, like, that's it. It's going to be a lot of freaking work. Trust me. It is a lot of work. Sometimes I fall into the category, too. Sometimes I find myself trying to find approval from some people, and then I catch myself, and then I try to, work on it. Basically, the bottom line is self-improvement, healing, spirituality, being present, recovering from something is always going to be a work in progress. There is never going to be a place where you're not improving. And that's the thing. We're always evolving. There is no last step. There is no last step. You're never going to be perfect, and that's okay. And we're not striving to be perfect when we're doing these things. We're striving to be conscious. We're striving to be kind. We're striving to be love. We're striving to be all of these things. And it's okay. It's okay to try to keep yourself going to the next level. It's not okay to keep beating yourself up about it. So that's going to do absolutely nothing for you but discourage you. And that's the last thing that we want to do. So, hope this was helpful. I got really into it. I feel like I've been on for a long time. I told myself, I have a headache. I'm going to be on for like 10 minutes, jump off. When I get into this stuff, guys, I get really into it. And that's a really, really good thing because I'm passionate about it. I want to help people break free of their codependency. And it's something I know a lot about. And I've experienced a hell of a lot of it. So, with that being said, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for joining. With that being said, if you want to chat some more, please message me. I might call in an early night today, so maybe tomorrow. I've got this major migraine that I'm trying to get rid of. But I will be on tomorrow. We'll try to do it more in the morning. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. I think I'm doing something around Valentine's Day because love is the most beautiful thing in the world. Right, guys? Right. All right. Have a good night. Bye, guys.